and another one done. So this month we read Dr. Peter Kreeft's The Greatest Philosopher Who Ever Lived. And I don't know if you can see, if you can tell, can you guess who it is? There's this blue veil right there. No, it's not Aristotle, it's not Socrates, it's not Nietzsche, of course, it's not Nietzsche, of course. It's Our Lady, Our Lady Mary. She was the greatest philosopher who ever lived. And before you click away, before, you might think, oh, it's so far-fetched. How could it be Our Lady? Our Lady didn't know anything about philosophy, about philosophy in the sense that we know it today, the study of philosophy, how it's very intellectual. Yes, you're right. She didn't. But the greatest advantage that she had was that she lived with philosophy itself, with wisdom itself, right? Philosophy is the love of wisdom. And one of her names is the seat of wisdom. She gave birth to wisdom, and so no other human being in the world could have known or has known wisdom so well than Mary. Mary gave birth to wisdom itself, Jesus. And that is the premise of this book. Peter Kreeft wrote a book series of like a 5-volume series on philosophy a few years ago. And he added Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, etc. But he said he forgot Mary. And you know what? He was right. Thank goodness, because then I don't think he would have made this book. Wisdom is feminine, Sophia. Philosophy is a romance, a love affair with Sophie. This is a great introduction to Mariology and philosophy. Peter Kreeft in the beginning gives a few introductions or prefaces, one to Protestants, like why Mary is important, who she is, what we Catholics believe, why this book is even relevant. And the book is written in the quintessential Peter Kreeft style. If you've ever listened to any of his talks or watched him or you read his other books, he's very witty. But sometimes, though, I did find, like in the book, there's some Peter Kreeftness that I prefer live, like listening to him. He has a lot of little side comments and things like that, which I think are better coming out of his mouth than through the book. But that doesn't mean that the book is not deep at all. Hello, and we're in June. We're halfway through the year. This month we are going to read Flannery O'Connor's Wise Blood. It's going to be intense. If you're interested in joining the book club, I would love to have you. Just sign up below. There's a Telegram group where we share our favorite passages, different insights, and at the end of the month, we come together to talk about the book. All the information is below, and so let's get back to the book review. I gave it to my dad, who is not Catholic at all anymore, who grew up Catholic but went to Mormonism. And he didn't really understand, why Mary? Like, what's the deal with Mary? And since he is a person who does love philosophy, I gave him this book to read. And at the end, he really liked it. And he gained a better understanding of Mary, her role, who she is, and why she is so important. So Peter Kreeft goes through the different studies of philosophy, metaphysics, logic, epistemology, ethics, and etc. And he shows how Mary is a part of each one and why she is the perfect role model for each one, if that makes sense. To summarize the whole thing, I would say it's her whole life. The way she lived her life and who she was is essentially what made her the greatest philosopher who ever lived. Like, if you think about it, like I said, she gave birth to wisdom itself, to Jesus. And she lived with him his 33 years on this life. And she got to know him. She fed him. She clothed him. She educated him. She raised him. And she had access to wisdom all the time. All the time. And Peter Kreeft goes through her life and the different ways that makes her, the way that we can find wisdom. The fact that she was silent for most of her life, and the few times that she spoke were in poetry. That says a lot. And how she was very contemplative. She pondered a lot of things. She trusted God so much She put all her trust in him. And she was so feminine. And she understood how life is important and sacred. She was obedient, and all these things about Mary, although she might not have said it or, understood it in the academic sense that, philosophers or even psychologists would talk about, she lived the life. She lived the life necessary to really get to know wisdom, to really get to know God. And that is what's most important. She is our role model. That's the whole, I guess, premise of the book, is that in order for us to know more, to be wise, to know more about wisdom, we have to live like Mary. She was the closest to God. I don't think people really think about that deeply enough. She was the closest to God. One of my favorite parts in this is the part with the suffering, and Peter Kreeft mentions that, every drop of blood that Jesus shed on the cross was Mary's. I think I heard this on the Theology of the Body Institute podcast. Christopher, I forgot his last name, I'm so sorry. But he mentioned that there was a nurse that said that our fingerprints are partially formed in the mother's womb from when we touch our mother's womb, and so that it presses into our skin. And so essentially a part of our mother, like we can visually see, are on our fingertips. And everybody and every mother knows this, is that the 9 months that baby is in the womb, you are forming it. That's why you eat so much, because it takes a lot to form a baby. And so I thought that was just fascinating. I didn't really think about that part of Mary. Every time that Jesus shed blood, it was hers, because she gave it to him, that human part of him. Yes, I know, guys, that Protestants, that it's, yes, God gave her the body. I know, but you know what I mean. I love the emphasis on femininity that Mary has. She was the most feminine woman, right? She was the second Eve. She embodied femininity. She is femininity, and she embraced it. She was silent, but not weak. She was far from weak, not weak at all. She was very, very strong, and she is very strong. And just like in Revelation, when she will crush the head of the serpent. I find that there's such an emphasis in women today to like be out there and like be like men and do as men do, go out into the world, and but we're not made for that. Our role is completely different, but essential. I think people forget this all the time. Yes, Jesus chose 12 men to be his apostles, but he chose a woman to come into the world. I'm sorry, but which one had the greater honor? The disciples or Mary? God has such great love for women in their true sense. And we just don't realize the privilege of what it is. So Mary's life is very contemplative, it's very quiet, but it doesn't mean it's weak. She was very, very strong. And that's why she was able to follow Christ as he went up and to get crucified. As I was reading the book, I thought, this is becoming less and less about Mary and more about God, Jesus, the church in general. I'm pretty sure this is on purpose. And then at the end, Peter Kreeft tells you, the reason why this book is not as distinctively Marian as you thought it would be is because it is more distinctively Marian than you thought it would be. For we have seen in this book that what is distinctively Marian is precisely everything in the Christian life. In other words, it is distinctively not distinctive, especially not specialized, particularly universal. And that is the whole point. Mary is for everyone. Mary brings us to God. Mary brings us to her seat of wisdom. And it is through living like Mary that we come to know wisdom even better. And we need Mary to show us her son now more than ever. And he talks a little bit about that at the end, how, there have been more Marian apparitions in the last century than there ever were before. She's brokenhearted at the relationships that Christians have among each other, and also the relationship between Christianity and Islam. Islam regards Mary of high esteem, more than many, many Christians in the world. And it is so sad that, we have this broken relationship. We have more in common with Islam. If you're looking to dip your toes into Mariology, philosophy, or if you have a Protestant friend who knows, who misunderstands Mary, I think this is a great book to recommend. Peter Crift makes philosophy very easy to understand. It's just a wonderful way to get to know Our Dear Lady, to help us get to know wisdom itself, Jesus Christ. So let me know in the comments below if you have read the book. If not, I encourage you to read it. If you don't know that much about Our Lady Mary, this is a wonderful book to start with. Anyways, that's it for this book, and I shall see you in the next one.